Zimbabwe and the European Union have signed 4 financing agreements worth around $80 million to support various sectors. The Minister of Finance, Macroeconomic, also took the opportunity to address the currency situation. We get the full story from our reporter, Faith Nyaude.
Minister Macroeconomic says while the currency devaluation affected business and some groups, the move has its own positives for the economy. He was speaking during the signing ceremony with the EU, which saw the bloc committing $80 million to various sectors such as agriculture, gender, resilience, and governance issues. The developments come at a time when experts have highlighted the importance of a stable currency to boost investment and trade.
Don't you think it's surprising that with all the currency volatility we've experienced in the last 5 years, the Zimbabwe economy has grown at an average rate of 6.8% in the last 3 years? How did this happen if currency was such a big deal? But actually shows and proves to you that having a weaker domestic currency has actually produced more advantages than disadvantages, and it shows an economic growth.
Zimbabwe had initially projected an economic growth of over 4% before it was revised downwards as a result of the drought. Trade deficit has also negatively affected the country, which has the US dollar circulating along with the ZiG. Loss in value of the local currency has resulted in markets chasing the US dollar as a store of value at a time when the same currency is required for imports.
The reason why we have slower growth this year is not because of the currency. It's actually because of climate change. We're expecting 2% rate of growth. Into next year, we're expecting 6% rate of growth, which is one of the highest growth rates in the Southern African region.
The agreement signed by Zimbabwe and the EU is a welcome development at a time when the economy needs more fresh capital.
The 4 financing agreements with a total value of 75 million euros constitute the 2024 action plan of the EU in Zimbabwe. As you are aware, the support comes under the 2021-2027 multi-annual indicative program, where Zimbabwe was allocated 148 million euros. It's about $160 million.
Greener and climate-smart agriculture, gender equality, and women empowerment programs help foster sustainable development and equitable growth across Zimbabwe. And the other sector targeted equally creates resilience at a time when the country is facing a menacing drought.
We have identified 2 main areas where we would like to be active together with the government and in alignment with the National Development Strategy 1. The first one is greener and climate-smart agriculture. I think agriculture is a key topic for Zimbabwe. And the other one is gender equality and women empowerment.
It is another big step taken by the EU in its bid to reinforce the relationship with Zimbabwe. The bloc says it remains committed to the country's economic development and industrialization goals. For ZTN Prime, I'm Faith Nyaude.
We are now joined by Eben Mabunda to discuss more about the currency issues highlighted by Professor Macroeconomic. Good evening, Eben. Could you just tell us how important it is for the country to work on stability of the ZiG investment for investment and trade purposes?
Good evening. What you realize is that to any economy, macroeconomic stability is important, as these are some of the indicators that investors take a look at before they inject any funds into any economy. They also want to look at a country's risk premium so that they can make an evaluation and an assessment of the risk vis-a-vis the return that they would get from an economy. So yes, indeed, the stability of a currency would be of utmost importance. At the end of the day, you want to be able to account for your investment. You also want to be able to weigh and value the progress that you would have made based on the investments and injections that an investor would have made into an economy over time. No wonder from an accounting perspective, should there be hyperinflationary conditions, would see the implementation of hyperinflationary accounting in a bid to make head or tail of the performance of be they listed companies or non-listed companies, as a means of seeking to account for every dollar that is expended, be it from a capital perspective or on a day-to-day basis of the operation of a business.
All right, and then the minister also alluded to the devaluation which took place recently. For business sake, how important is a gradual devaluation as opposed to the one witnessed?
Two interesting aspects of that particular question. I'll speak to the first one, which is currency devaluation. When you look at some of the most founded economies in the region, or should I say the strongest currencies in the region, we're looking at the Pula, we're looking at the Rand. Initially, when the Zimbabwe gold was priced at 1:14.5, 14.6, that was pretty much strong in the region, and that made Zimbabwe's products uncompetitive regionally when you compare with the Rand, which has been sailing at anywhere between 1:17 to 1:20. And so a gradual devaluation of the domestic currency would, of course, have its advantages, as it allows the products made from Zimbabwe to be competitive in the short to medium term. However, again, getting back to the aspect of gradual, I think what we experienced was pretty much a sudden devaluation of the domestic currency, and that had an inflationary impact. Hence, we saw the inflation figures for the month of October registering a whooping 37.5% on the inflation Richter scale, if you may. So going forward, we would want to make sure that stability is maintained, and there would be a gradual devaluation and not so much of the sudden like we experienced in the last quarter of the month of September.
And then we've seen that the European Union continues to support Zimbabwe initiatives in key sectors as shown by agreements signed today. How important is that for the country from investor confidence point of view?
A very important development for Zimbabwe, 75 million euros there, most of which will be channeled toward the productive sectors of the economy. One of the challenges that Zimbabwe has faced, again, I mentioned the risk premium on Zimbabwe, which is pretty much on the high side. And when you look at even the interest rates in Zimbabwe, they're very much high when compared to other economies, not just on the continent, but even the world over. So these are comfortable lines of credit that Zimbabwe can channel toward the productive sectors of the economy and get to boost the performance of the Zimbabwean economy. A challenge where the stability of the local currency is concerned has been the perennial trade deficit that Zimbabwe has been grappling with, which has been north of $1.5 billion annually, at least over the past 3 to 5 years. So one way to reduce the trade deficit is by means of increasing production in the economy, and such comfortable lines of credit then become of pivotal importance and help to boost the economic fortunes of the country.
Konapo Konapo, Ipapo Ipapo, ZTN Prime, DSTV channel 294, the place to be.